You think you are calm. You think you are mature. You think you let things go, but the truth is more straightforward and uglier. You are not calm. You are sedated. You are trained to swallow disrespect and call it peace. You are taught to accept less and label it being the bigger person. That training has a name. It is resentment. And it is already inside you, working quietly, like poison that does not need noise to kill. Look at how it shows up. At work, your manager drops a last-minute task on you at 6 to 7 p.m. and says, "It will only take an hour." You smile. You say, "Sure," and you cancel your evening. You do not argue. You do not push back. You walk to your desk like a loyal employee. Then, in the car on the way home, your jaw is tight. You replay the moment. You invent speeches you never said. You imagine quitting. You imagine humiliating him in a meeting. You do nothing. You grind your teeth and call it responsibility. In your relationship, she says, you are being distant lately, with that soft tone that sounds caring but feels like a charge. You start explaining. You talk about stress, work, sleep, the week, and your intentions. You give her a full report, as if you were on trial. She listens, then shakes her head and says, "That is not what I mean." Now you explain harder. You keep trying to be understood. You keep trying to be approved. And the more you explain, the smaller you feel. With friends or family, someone makes a joke at your expense in front of others. Everyone laughs. You laugh too, because you do not want to look sensitive. But later you remember the laugh. You remember the timing. You remember who joined in. You say nothing. You do not set a boundary. You do not correct the frame. You store it. You store it like a debt, and you call it moving on. That stored debt is resentment. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is quiet. That is why it survives. It turns your mind into a courtroom where you are always the defendant. You are always trying to prove you are good. You are always trying to prove you are fair. You are always trying to prove you deserve respect, love, and a place at the table. Nietzsche saw this pattern long before your boss, your partner, or your family existed. He studied human behavior and said what most people are too weak to admit. When you cannot act, you start judging. When you cannot dominate your own life, you begin moralizing about other people's lives. When you cannot win in reality, you invent a fantasy where losing makes you better. That fantasy feels noble. It is actually decay. So listen. Put your phone face down and listen. This is not a lecture. This is a diagnosis. Resentment quietly poisons the human mind because it turns you into a creature that reacts instead of creates. It makes you needy for approval, hungry for validation, addicted to being seen as good. It makes you explain. It makes you justify. It makes you perform. I am going to give you 6 power shifts, 6 truths that separate the controlled from the controller, not by teaching you, by naming what is already happening. Most people will click away because they want comfort. They want permission to stay the same. If you stay, you are choosing discomfort over sedation. If you ignore this, you remain managed. If you stay, you separate from the herd. If this hit you, write "I am the strategist" once in the comments to mark the day your mindset changed. Now we begin where your weakness begins. You accepted their frame. Start with the habit of explaining yourself. You think explaining is clarity. You think explaining is communication. In reality, explaining is often submission. When someone questions you and you rush to defend yourself, you are admitting something without words. You are admitting they have the right to evaluate you. You stepped into their court. You handed them authority. Watch it at work. A colleague says, "Why did you do it that way?" You hear a simple question, but your body hears a challenge. You start talking fast. You justify each decision. You try to sound reasonable. You try to sound smart. You try to win their approval. Meanwhile, they sit back and listen like a judge. In that moment, you are not leading. You are auditioning. Common behavior creates weakness by training you to believe your value depends on other people's understanding. You become a salesman for your own existence. It feels good to be understood. It feels good to get the nod. That feeling is a leash. Nietzsche would call this the morality of the weak, the habit of turning external approval into your God, because you do not trust your own standard. The reversal is cold. You stop explaining, not because you are rude, because you refuse the frame. When a question is genuine, you answer. When a question is a test, you do not perform. You say less. You let silence do the sorting. You let the other person reveal their intention. You keep your tone calm. You keep your face neutral. You do not rush to be cleared. You do not beg to be seen as good. This is where resentment starts to die. Resentment feeds on unspoken submission. The more you swallow, the more your mind keeps a secret record. It says, "I should have said something." It says, "I should have stood up." That record becomes your inner poison. When you stop explaining, you stop submitting. When you stop submitting, you stop storing poison. Some people will try to punish you for this. They will call you arrogant. They will say you are hard to talk to. They will tell you that you are too guarded. That is not feedback. That is resistance. They want you back in the role where you are easy to evaluate. They want you back in the role where you seek approval. You do not argue with resistance. You do not explain your boundaries. You enforce them. You let them sit with the discomfort. You let them adjust. You let them leave. You stop being evaluated. You start evaluating. Then comes your addiction to reaction. People learn your buttons, then press them. They do it at work with little digs. They do it in relationships with emotional tests. They do it in family dynamics with guilt. The moment you react, you give them proof that they control you. Reaction is a confession. It says, "You have access to my nervous system." Picture a meeting. Someone cuts you off. You feel heat in your chest. You lean forward. You raise your voice. You fight for your turn. You look passionate. You look invested. What you actually look like is predictable. They set the tempo. You followed. You accepted their frame that the room belongs to whoever creates the most noise. Or picture a message on your phone. One line, K, or no reply for hours. Your mind starts spinning. You check again. You type delete. You send another message to fix the feeling. This is the quiet humiliation modern men live in. You are not chasing a person. You are chasing relief from uncertainty. You are chasing approval. You are chasing control. Nietzsche would say resentment grows in the person who cannot discharge his energy outward. When you cannot act with strength, you stew, you wait, you interpret, you brood. That brooding is not intelligence. It is a trapped force. The reversal is not to stay calm like a polite boy. The reversal is to use silence as a weapon of clarity. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is control. Silence tells the other person, "Your attempt to move me failed." Silence creates fear because it removes the feedback they use to steer you. When you do not react, you stop being a screen they can play on. This is not about being robotic. It is about being sovereign. You pause before you speak. You let a breath happen. You keep your eyes steady. You answer slowly, if you answer at all. You do not match their pace. You do not chase their mood. You do not clean up their discomfort. Most men are trained to manage other people's feelings. That is why they are controllable. They see tension and they rush to fix it. They see disappointment and they rush to earn their way back. They see anger, and they rush to defend themselves. That fixing is submission. When you stop fixing, you flip the dynamic. Now they have to manage the space. Now they have to wonder what you think. Now they have to earn your clarity. They are being evaluated instead of evaluating. Your silence becomes a mirror. They see themselves. Resentment cannot survive in a man who does not react because resentment needs a story. It requires drama inside your skull. Silence ends the story. It ends the internal replay. You stop giving your mind more footage to obsess over. You become quiet on the inside too. Now watch how resentment hides inside morality. This is the most dangerous form because it feels like virtue. Resentment loves to dress like a clean conscience. It whispers, "I am better than them." It whispers, "I would never do that." It whispers, "They are shallow, they are selfish, they are toxic." And it feels good. It feels powerful. It is actually a weakness to wear a crown. You see it in men who cannot compete, so they condemn competition. They say money is evil, but they also hate the guy with money. They say status is fake, but they also feel small around men with status. They say confidence is arrogance, but they also resent confident men. They say women are manipulative, but they also chase approval from women. They say bosses are corrupt, but they also fear their boss. They judge what they cannot command. That is resentment's signature. Nietzsche called this resentment. His word, not mine. It is the emotional alchemy in which failure becomes a moral stance. You lose, then you claim the game itself is wrong. You cannot take, so you call it taking badly. You cannot lead, so you call it leadership oppression. You cannot set boundaries, so you call them cold. This is how the weak create a world where their weakness becomes good. Here is the reversal. You stop using morality as a hiding place. You stop needing to be good in other people's eyes. You stop needing to be the victim who secretly thinks they're superior. You admit what you want. You acknowledge what you respect. You realize what you envy. You do not confess it like a sinner. You state it like a strategist. At work, instead of complaining that the system is unfair, you study the system. You ask who has leverage here. You ask what do they reward. You ask where is authority. You stop whining in the hallway. You stop bonding over resentment. That bonding feels like brotherhood, but it is a cage. It keeps you small together. In relationships, instead of saying people are always toxic, look at your own behavior. You ask, where did I accept a frame that made me chase? You ask, where did I trade my standards for approval? You stop calling it love when it is just fear of loss. You stop calling it loyalty when it is just weak attachment. This shift is brutal because it removes your excuses. It also removes your poison. Resentment needs excuses. It needs a villain. It requires a story where you are pure but powerless. Nietzsche would laugh at that story, not because he is cruel, but because he sees the trick. If you keep the story, you keep the poison. Another place resentment breeds is your need to be liked. This one is everywhere because modern life is a marketplace of attention. You are surrounded by subtle scoring. Likes, replies, invitations, compliments, group chats, workplace politics. If you are addicted to being liked, you will always be managed. A man who needs to be liked cannot hold a frame. He folds under pressure. He gives too much information. He laughs at jokes that disrespect him. He overworks to be reliable. He apologizes for taking up space. He lets people interrupt him. He says yes when he means no. Then he goes home and feels angry. Not at them, at himself. That anger becomes resentment. Quiet, daily, reliable. The reversal is complex and straightforward. You decide that respect is more important than comfort. You choose tension over approval. You choose boundaries over popularity. That sounds like advice. It is not. It is the price of authority. Authority always creates friction. If you cannot tolerate friction, you will never be a man with presence. At work, you stop being the hero who saves everything. You do your job well, but you do not over-deliver to buy love. You document your work. You speak in outcomes. You let other people carry their own incompetence. You do not rescue. Rescue is a drug. It makes you feel needed. What is required is not valued. Needed is used. In your personal life, you stop chasing quick reassurance. You stop sending the extra message to calm yourself. You stop trying to explain your intentions. You let people misunderstand you if they are committed to misunderstanding. You do not fight for a fair hearing in a biased court. You exit the court. You keep your standards private. You keep your energy protected. Nietzsche would call this the difference between a reactive life and a creative life. The reactive man builds his identity from other people's responses. The innovative man builds his identity from his own will. You do not need to call it philosophy. You can feel it. One life is tight and desperate. The other is calm and dangerous. Now look at the trap of keeping score in your head. You remember who did what. You remember who got credit. You remember who did not text back. You remember who disrespected you years ago. You remember the tone, the look, the moment. Your memory becomes a prison. You live in the past because you did not correct the present. Here is the brutal truth. If you do not speak when it matters, your mind will never shut up later. Your mind will talk for you. It will rehearse. It will punish. It will fantasize. That is how resentment poisons you. It makes your inner world loud and your outer world quiet. The reversal is action, not emotional action. Strategic action. You address disrespect early, cleanly, without heat. You do not wait until you are overflowing. You do not explode. Exploding is weak because it proves you are afraid to act earlier. You correct the frame on time. A friend jokes at your expense. You do not laugh it off. You pause. You look at him. You say calmly, "Do not do that again." Then you move on. No speech, no anger, no debate. You set the boundary like a fact. If he argues, you do not explain. You repeat it once. Then you withdraw attention. Attention is currency. Remove it. At work, someone tries to dump their failure on you. You do not accept it. You say, "That is not my responsibility." If they push, you say, "I am not taking that on." Then you stop talking. You do not fill the silence. You let the silence pressure them, not you. In relationships, when someone tests you with vague accusations, you do not run to defend. You say, "Be specific." If they cannot be specific, you do not chase the conversation. You end it calmly. "We can talk when you are clear." Then you return to your life. You refuse to be dragged into fog. This is not cruelty. This is not a game. This is reality. People respect what has edges. People exploit what they have none of. Nietzsche would say that strength is not the absence of conflict. Strength is the ability to shape conflict. Resentment is what happens when conflict shapes you. Now face psychological dependency. You depend on people to confirm your value. You rely on their attention to feel real. You rely on their approval to feel safe. This makes you easy to steer. It makes it easy to feel guilty. It makes it easy to shame. Look at family dynamics. You go to an event you do not want to attend because you do not want to be the bad one. You accept comments about your choices because they mean well. You hold your tongue because that is just how they are. Then you leave and feel drained. You feel angry. You feel trapped. That is resentment again. It is the price you pay for borrowed belongings. The reversal is distance. Distance creates authority, not because it is manipulative, but because it breaks the supply line of control. People cannot manage you if they cannot reach your emotions on demand. People cannot keep you in a role if you are willing to step away from the stage. This is where men get weak. They fear being seen as cold. They fear losing access. They fear being alone. So they tolerate disrespect. They stay available. They keep the door open no matter what. They call it loyalty. It is fear. You set your availability like a king sets his court. Not everyone enters. Not everyone gets time. Not everyone gets explanations. You do not chase people who withdraw. You let them withdraw. Scarcity creates value. Distance creates respect. Silence creates curiosity. This is basic human behavior. Pretending otherwise is childish. Nietzsche's lens makes this clear. Resentment comes from suppressed power. Your power is suppressed when you fear of losing people. Your power returns when you can lose people without collapsing. That is not lowliness, that is freedom. A brief cameo just for the men who like names. Even Machiavelli, the realist everyone quotes without living, understood that people respond to strength, not pleading. He did not romanticize human nature, neither does Nietzsche. You either see how people move or you get moved. Now, if you are listening closely, you see the pattern. Every time you chase approval, you hand away authority. Every time you react, you hand away control. Every time you moralize, you hide from action. Every time you keep score silently, you poison yourself. Every time you stay close to people who disrespect you, you teach them they can. That is the mechanism. Resentment is not just an emotion, it is a structure. It is the structure of a man who cannot act, who cannot set terms, who cannot hold a frame, so he builds an inner world where he is secretly righteous. That righteousness is a tranquilizer. It keeps you from changing the real world. Now we move into the part most men avoid, the consequences, not theoretical consequences, real, visible consequences. When resentment runs through your mind, you become socially invisible in a specific way. People still see you, but they do not feel you. They do not think about edges. They do not feel consequences. They do not think of authority. They feel availability. They feel utility. They feel convenience. At work, you get more tasks, not more respect. You become the guy who can handle it. That sounds like a compliment. It is a sentence. They will load you until you break, then they will replace you. They do not reward resentment. They reward leverage. Leverage comes from boundaries, scarcity, and a clear frame. In relationships, you get tolerated, not valued. You become predictable. You become the man who will always explain, always chase, always fix the mood. That feels like love to someone who wants control. It does not feel like desire. Desire needs uncertainty. Desire needs tension. Desire needs a man who is not owned by her feelings. With friends and family, you become the reliable background character. You show up, you help, you listen, you absorb. You do not challenge. They call you good. They do not fear losing you. That is the problem. People protect what they fear losing. If they do not fear losing you, they will not protect you. This is why resentment is poison. It makes you valuable and obedient. It makes you agreeable. And then it punishes you inside for being those things. You are both the servant and the judge. You serve them in public. You judge them in private. You never get relief because you never get power. Now look at the contrast. A man without resentment is not lovely. He is clean. His mind is clean because his life has structure. He does not have to replay disrespect because he corrects it. He does not have to fantasize about revenge because he does not tolerate violations. He does not have to moralize because he acts. He does not have to beg for approval because he has his own standards. Silence creates fear when it is backed by the ability to leave. Distance creates authority when it is supported by a life that does not collapse without them. Scarcity creates value when you do not hand out your time like charity. These are not tricks. These are basic rules of human behavior. You can hate them. You can deny them. They will still operate on you. This is where people get uncomfortable and start lying. They say, "But that is manipulation." No. What is manipulation is the weak man's attempt to control outcomes while pretending he has no power. What is manipulation is passive aggression. What is manipulation is guilt. What is the manipulation of moral superiority? What is manipulation is explaining to get approval. That is not honesty. That is a strategy without courage. What I am describing is realism. You set terms, you enforce them, you accept the cost. Resentment disappears because there is no suppressed energy left to rot. Nietzsche would say that life is will, not wishes. Not your wishes, not your fantasies. Your will, your ability to choose, to act, to create, to deny. Resentment is what happens when you live in wishes. You wish people respected you. You want them to understand you. You then want to treat yourself fairly. Then you stew when they do not. A strategist does not wish. He sets conditions. So integrate this now. Do not treat it as information. Treat it as a mirror. Every time you feel resentment rising, ask one question: where did I accept their frame? Where did I step into their court? Where did I hand them authority? Because resentment is always connected to a moment of submission you did not correct. Find that moment. Own it. Fix it, not with anger, with structure. This will change how you move through conversations. You will stop oversharing. You will stop defending. You will stop trying to be seen as good. You will start speaking like a man who already decided who he is. People will test you at first. They constantly test new boundaries. The test is not the problem. Your reaction is the problem. Hold the line. Calm, slow, direct. This will change how you use attention. You will stop giving attention to disrespect because you will stop chasing closure. You will stop needing the last word. Needing the previous word is a sign you were moved. A man who is not transferred does not need to prove anything. This will change how you handle conflict. You will stop waiting until you explode. You will correct early. You will correct cleanly. You will remove access when needed. Not as a tantrum, as a boundary. And it will change your inner world. The mind of a resentful man is loud. It is full of scenes that never happened, speeches never spoken, and revenge never executed. The mind of a disciplined man is quiet, not because he is passive, because he is decisive. Now I will give you one clear challenge. For the next 7 days, live by 3 rules. You do not explain yourself to anyone who is testing you. If they ask a fundamental question, answer it briefly. If they are fishing for submission, you give them less. You let silence sit. You let them feel it. Each day you correct one frame in real time. 1. At work, in your home, in your family. A small boundary. A clean no. A calm do not do that. No anger, no speech, just a line. And you remove one source of resentment by creating distance, not dramatic distance, strategic distance, less availability, less immediate response, less access to your emotions. You are not punishing them. You are protecting your frame. If you cannot do this for 7 days, you already know the truth. You are not suffering from bad luck. You are suffering from dependence. This is where the modern world wants you. Dependent, reactive, performative, useful, easy to guilt, easy to shame, easy to manage. Nietzsche would call that a domesticated human, a tame animal that mistakes obedience for virtue. You are not here to be tame. You are here to be clear. You are here to be dangerous in your calm. You are here to be the man who sets terms. If you want more of this, you know what to do. Like the video if it made you uncomfortable in the right way. Share it with the one man you see who is quietly drowning in resentment. Subscribe because the herd will not save you, and your feelings will not save you. If this hits you right, I am the strategist once in the comments, to mark the day your mindset changed. Now close this video and move like a man who does not need permission. Keep your phone face down, keep your standards up, keep your silence sharp. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be respected.